Welcome to the Intuitive Therapist Podcast with Janis Cohen, therapist, clairvoyant, empath, and medium. Listen in as she takes a no-nonsense deep dive into real human struggles and how to resolve them. Janis will share channeled information from her spirit guide team, as well as the angels and archangels, to help you master your emotional, physical, financial, and spiritual destiny. And now, Janis R. Cohen. Hey y'all, this is Janis Cohen, the Intuitive Therapist, here on the Intuitive Therapist Podcast. So glad you're with me. We got some good content coming up in the next several episodes. If you've listened to me for a while, you know that I like to offer explanations and supportive strategies to get through life's shit. And today is no different. I have encountered so many turnback moments in my life, and that's what today is about. And look, each of us has. We've reached crossroads where we can either go back to the way we were living our lives, or we could take one last chance and risk moving forward in the direction of our dreams, outcome unknown. I'd never heard of this concept, turnback moment, but related to it once it was explained to me, made such sense. It's powerful, and I hope by the end of today's podcast episode, you'll find yourself thinking about how far you've actually come in your life, not where you're not. Steve Harvey was interviewed and mentioned that he had his turnback moment when he was living out of his car. I don't know how many years ago, clearly a good 20, 30 years ago. He was traveling to do comedy. He was just in his car going from comedy place to comedy place. He would send money home to his wife and children. And he realized that he literally had nothing left one day. Like nothing. He had no home. His wife left him. No money. He had a car that he couldn't fill up with gas. He had no money for food. He, couldn't even drive to the gigs that he was offered. He realized he had no path, no place to call home, and he was at a turning point. He was just about to use his last quarter to phone his dad to see if he could come back home to live for a while and just kind of give up and go back to this job that he had working in this business, building things. I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was a business that was going to lead him nowhere, a job that was going to lead him nowhere. So he grabbed that quarter out of his pocket because he'd pretty much given up. And all of a sudden he got this nudge just as he was reaching for the phone to put in the quarter. And he remembered that he'd given out his number, his mother's number, for the answering machine, so that the people who would like to book him for jobs could leave messages, because back then that's really all that we kind of had. So at first he heard this voice. He's like, nah, I'm not dealing with this shit anymore. I tried and I just can't make it work. So then he picked up the receiver, was about to put the quarter in the machine, and then the urge became stronger. And he's like, well, fuck it. I'll just call. I'll call. Let me call my mother's answering machine to see if there are any messages. So he put the quarter in. Back then, the phone, we'll call it phone machine, phone. And all of a sudden there was this message. And he decided to listen to it. Turns out that somebody from a comedy club, a big-time comedy club, had left him a message about a gig that they wanted him to be a part of with some really big names. Sinbad, Jamie Foxx, some really big up-and-coming names. And they said, hey, we want to offer you a spot. We think you're that good. So he starts to cry because he's like, you know what? I gave up, but what was I supposed to do? And look, here is this opportunity. So he's crying out of joy, but he was also crying because he had no money. How was he going to get there? How was he going to get to where he needed to go to make money when he didn't have money? But he at least knew that life as he knew it hadn't stopped. He at least knew he could figure out a way to still dream. Somehow, he was able to get a couple of gigs on the way. And he was able to calculate how much money he would need for gas to get down from where he was to where he needed to be. Somehow, it worked out. He surrendered and followed his guidance in that decision to not return to the way he was living and not give up at the very last moment, changed his life completely. Looking at your life, when was your turn back moment? Was it when you're on your last drink, your last cigarette, where you're so drunk you can't even stand, or you're coughing up and wheezing, all sorts of crap because you're still smoking? Was it your last moment tolerating somebody's abusive behavior to you in a job or in a relationship, when you're done with that last insult and you're done with that last hit or punch? When was the moment that you faced the choice to turn back and stay in the shithole of your life and not move forward, or take that chance and go in a different direction? Outcome unknown. I've talked a lot about my journey of coming out spiritually, both personally and professionally. Y'all have heard that story before. That was a turnback moment for me. I could play it safe and follow guidance from people around me who wanted me to play it safe because they did not get it. Playing safe was the way to go, right? Or I could take a leap of faith and follow my truth in spite of pushback, fear, and warnings from other people. Y'all know you're always going to get that when you do something that other people are scared about, because deep down they wish they could be as fearless as you. I'm a ballsy person, but that doesn't mean that I didn't have my uncertainties. But I knew I had to move in that direction because who I was before didn't exist. I had to look at this new Janis. I have fought many times to get back on my feet again in my life, from some of the fucked up relationships I've been in and my personal failures. Trust me, I had many, many people who would literally stand around and love watching me fail. I'm not talking about family, I'm talking about other people. Many times I had my tail between my legs, and my turnback moments were entirely tied up in how I was going to garner some self-respect and move forward with my head held high. I had lots of opportunities where I actually did turn back. And guess what? I paid for it dearly, because the lessons that I needed to learn just kept getting bigger and bigger and harder because I kept giving up when I should have continued to move forward. So, yep, many times I've had my tail between my legs. And regardless of how hard I tried to claw my way out of the dark holes that I put myself in and I found myself in, it was hard. I'm sure you can relate. And those times I kind of gave up. I know that I'm going to have more turnback moments in my life, and so will you. But what I've learned that has kept me from revisiting them and practicing the same behavior, these turnback moments when they come up, is to teach what I've learned and to pay it forward in my work and in how I show up to whoever I encounter. That means if I choose to open the door for somebody or hold it, or pay for somebody's meal, or smile, or whatever it is that I could do to better somebody's life. Everybody struggles with pivotal moments like the ones I've talked about, the turnback moments. And you sometimes have to decide in a split second whether or not you're going to turn back to your past, which is easy, but it's actually harder in the long run because you're suffering, or whether or not you're going to take your leap of faith and create your new path. The only way that you will be able to do that is to become sick and tired of the way you're living, where you, like, we're in the times right now where you're forced to look at a different way of living. You adopt a new and real powerful belief system about yourself and of what you're capable, and anyone can change the trajectory of their life in an instant when you do this. Each of us can redesign and recreate our lives with a single decision and a new commitment to living differently. So that when you're faced with these turnback moments that can bury you, I mean, really bury you and kill your dreams, you are the only one that can, as you're looking back, move your feet forward and pivot and look ahead. Take a moment and think about your turn back moments. Those moments that you could have thrown in the towel because it seemed easier and life was just too freaking hard and you just had to stop fighting. What happened that pushed you forward? What happened that made you change your mind and move away from your past, take your power back and carve out a new path for yourself? What was your leverage? Was it knowing that you have kids to support and that they look up to you and they see you and you're modeling for them how they could possibly end up and live their lives? Is it that your own critical self is saying, go ahead, give in like you always have? I encounter people all the time, and actually I'm thinking of somebody that I grew up with. Knew her for a very, very long time. Unfortunately, our friendship went different ways, but I really, for much of my life, was friends with her. I always knew her potential. Good human, really good human. And we would talk a lot, and I would try to get her to finish college, to develop a direction for herself. But it seemed very difficult for her to fight what she was going through. And she really leaned into a sense of helplessness and allowed her sadness and depression and loss to get the best of her. So she really kind of never got on her feet, no matter what she really tried. And my heart goes out to her because I know what she's capable of, but I also know that she has intentionally made the choice to not change her story. So as a result of that, she has kind of a crappy relationship with her husband. She has some kids that have adopted the disrespect that her husband shows to her and the helplessness that she practices. So they've, in essence, recreated their dysfunction in their offspring. And so even now, at our age, she can make changes. People do it all the time. I remember when I was in graduate school, only 30 years ago, there were people my age in their 50s changing course, getting out of banking, getting into social work, getting into therapy, getting into whatever, because they knew, you know what, I want a better life. I don't want to stay where I'm at. I don't want to turn back and be in my past. So I always tell people to use everything in their lives to become a better version of themselves. I hope you'll do that. I hope that if you're facing your turn back moment now, that you will march your ass around forward and try again. Find somebody who can help you. Reach out to somebody. Let them help you. Let them teach you how to forge a new way. Because I'm telling you, that's what life is about. It's improving the quality of your life so you leave that legacy and not hide underneath the rock so that nobody will find out what you think you are, which is a fraud and a failure, and it's not true. You have the capacity to change your life. Live life in a way that you're proud. I wish that for you. And I love you. I hope you have a blessed day, a wonderful week, and as always, live intuitively.
Thanks for listening to The Intuitive Therapist. If you like what you heard, the best compliment you can give us is to share this podcast with a friend. And be sure to give us some stars and a favorable review at Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen in.